wonderful presentation with Judy Lee from the Library of Congress. We're very fortunate to have her with us today. And I just wanted to start out by kind of giving you a little bio on who Judy is. She has been in grant making for a long time, but Judy started her role at the Library of Congress as the Literacy Awards Program Manager in July of 2022. Prior to her position there, she was the grants program manager at the Legal Services Corporation and program coordinator at the Pennsylvania Immigration and Citizenship Coalition. So she's been out there doing good in the world for a few years here. She received her master's in public administration from Syracuse University's Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs in September of 2022 and has a bachelor's in Hispanic languages and literature and a minor in Chinese language and literature from the University of Pittsburgh, and has taught English in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as well as an AmeriCorps volunteer, as well as in, am I saying this right, Judy Dalian, China, as a Princeton in Asia fellow, which is pretty cool. And I would also add that she is just a lovely overall person, and we are so thankful for her time here today. So she's going to tell us a little bit about the history of the Literacy Awards from the Library of Congress, and also what it's like to apply for those awards. And then we also have a couple of, amongst our larger MBAA family, we have a couple of former winners, and at least one of them is going to share with us a little bit about what that was like and how that felt to apply and then receive the award and all of that. So yeah, and then we should have some good time for questions as well. So keep your thinking caps on and yeah, be ready to ask whatever you feel comes up. So thanks, Judy. I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Beth. And I also want to thank Emily for just connecting me to the group months ago and just suggesting that we have a conversation together. So I'm really happy to meet with all of you. And it's also fun to see familiar names and faces. And I'm also excited that my colleague James Santos was able to sign on. James is hiding amongst the pictures floating here. He is the Administrative Supportive Assistant for the Literacy Awards program. So we've been through many presentations like this before, and I'm glad that he's here and can support me. I will also just start out by letting you know that I am getting over a cold. So you might see me blowing my nose or maybe even having to mute myself to cough a little bit, but fingers crossed, I got a full bottle of water next to me and we'll get through this together.
We've all been there. That's
Okay.
all good.
Yes, appreciate all of you. Like Beth said, I will be providing you all with an overview of the Literacy Awards program. That's the main goal. Knowing that the 2026 application cycle is going to open in a couple of months, and we feel that you all may be very interested in considering applying. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And we'll walk through this presentation together. Like Beth said, I've been managing the Literacy Awards program for just a little over 3 years, I guess quickly approaching 3.5 years. There's been a lot to learn. It's such an incredible institution. And regarding the Library of Congress itself, I'm still learning so much. I feel a little bit more confident talking just about the program than about the Library of Congress, but here we go, I'll do my best. The Library of Congress, if you haven't been there before, of course, it's in Washington, D.C. The primary purpose of the Library of Congress is, of course, to serve Congress and conducting research for our legislators, members of Congress. But our second and equally important, and one that so many of us here at the library are so excited about, is making sure that the library is a place for all Americans. And so I don't know if you know, but there are more than 180 million items in our collections. We are the largest library in the world. If you're reading the fine print here, this is a little bit outdated, but I believe we're closer to 180 than just 176 million items. We're constantly collecting new and valuable items. And many of them are on display physically at the Library of Congress in the Thomas Jefferson Building. We have plenty of reading rooms too, scattered throughout our 3 major buildings on campus, right on Capitol Hill, that if you're ever in town, you're welcome to visit. But for those who are not local to DC or don't have any plans to come to DC anytime soon, we have been involved in a very long time and important digitization process of all of our collections items. So more and more our collection items are available online digitally. So if you haven't explored the Library of Congress website, www.loc.gov, I definitely encourage you to. I think that this group would definitely, there's things that you would be interested in. One thing program I didn't actually plan to talk about, but as I look at you and think about the work that you're involved in, we have a very strong professional learning and outreach initiatives um, team and program, which is where the Literacy Awards program falls under. But basically, James and my colleagues, they're full time dedicated to creating resources for educators of all across all disciplines and across all uh, schools, right? So from pre-elementary all the way through higher education. And so I mentioned this just because if you're ever involved in maybe lesson planning about a particular book you're reading, or you're working with teachers and you're looking for lesson plan ideas, we have already a large selection of lesson plans that go into popularly or widely read books that connect teachers and future students to our collection items. So definitely want to encourage you. And James, if you have a moment to just drop a link to the TPS or Teaching with Primary Sources page, definitely want to encourage you all to just a little shout out to our colleagues to explore that. Um, so primary sources, big part of our work at the Library of Congress, of course. Our mission is to engage, inspire, and inform Congress, like I mentioned, and the American people with a universal and enduring source of knowledge and creativity. We're working really hard to make sure that all Americans know they're connected to us. And honestly, this is where the Literacy Awards program falls. And we are, again, part of the Professional Learning and Outreach Initiatives Office because we're one of the offices that does so much outward facing work where the majority of our Library of Congress colleagues, of course, are working on collections and kind of building our internal database. So the Literacy Awards program allows us to connect with organizations, not just based in the US, but also abroad. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. Just a quick few facts about the Library of Congress. For some of you who are big fans, you probably know more about the Library of Congress than I do. Moving on to the Literacy Awards program. The program was established in 2013 by the Library of Congress with the support and help of philanthropist David Rubenstein. You may have heard that name before. It's a really popular name in the DC area. For example, he's super generous philanthropist, and he is a major partner in our National Book Festival that happens every year, for example, and he's helped pay for a lot of important projects across the city, not just for the Library of Congress. So it's a name that we hear often in this area locally. But he is an avid reader and has loved books his whole life. He's in venture capitalism, but he has never abandoned or forgotten his love for books. And one thing that when he approached the library, more than 10 years ago, that he wanted to bring up was also the group of people who can read but don't read. So illiterate people or people who have the skills but just don't find the joy in reading. That was also a group of people or group of the population that really weighed on David Rubenstein. And so he approached the Library of Congress and said, hey, I think we need to draw more attention to this, the importance of not just having reading and writing skills, but also promoting a joy and a love of reading. And so that is really what gave birth to the Literacy Awards program, again, through the financial support of David Rubenstein. And then we were really fortunate a couple of years ago, the Kizak Family Foundation, another big partner, private partner of the Library of Congress, approached really the Library of Congress and said, hey, we want to, we have some funding that we want to give out, and we're primarily interested in education. What opportunities do you have? And one of our former board members was able to connect them to the Literacy Awards program. And it wasn't anything super strategic. She was just telling them about how she was involved with the library and how she served on our advisory board. And they were immediately drawn to our mission and the work that we were doing, and wanted to find out how they can support us. And so, beginning in 2023, thanks to the Kizak Family Foundation, we were able to expand the number of prizes we're able to give out each year, as well as double the financial impact of one of our prizes. And I have those listed out, and I'll walk through those with you all in a moment. Um, but one other thing that it has allowed us to do is it's allowed me and James to travel the country, and to meet with former winners and honorees in person, which has been a real special opportunity, something that the program has never maybe dreamed about here and there, but knew that it would never be a possibility. So we didn't really do much with that until this really rare encounter with the Kizak Family Foundation. So beginning in 2024, last year, we were able to host 3 in-person regional gatherings across the country and meet with former winners and honorees, as well as to allow those former winners and honorees to connect with one another. And we've received a lot of positive feedback from those who've been able to participate. And I know there are a couple people on this call who was able to participate in one earlier this year. So we can hear from them directly what they honestly thought about it. You can ask them when I'm not in the room for their honest review. So since 2013, we have awarded over $4.3 million to more than 200 organizations representing 42 countries. The 42 countries are simply the countries where the organizations are located. The actual collective impact is much more broad than that. We have organizations that provide books digitally, for example, globally. So it's not limited to a particular geographic region. Um, do, do, do. So you've heard about David Rubenstein, you heard about the Kizak Family Foundation. We're very grateful to the both of them. You might be curious, well, who's behind the administration of the awards? Of course, James, myself, our supervisors. And then we have a 15-member advisory board it's a working board. They're very committed to the success of the program. They're actually the ones who read all of the applications, review them, score them, and make final award recommendations, which are then approved by the acting librarian of Congress, who is currently Robert Newland. So when it comes to reviewing applications, James and I do play an important role, which is to help support and facilitate the process, but we actually do not read or get any say in who gets to be recommended as an awardee. I do share this definition of literacy from UNESCO. Almost immediately after I was hired, I worked with the board and on an interesting question about how are we defining literacy. I noticed in the conversations that we talked often a lot about, just reading and writing skills. And I noticed in the types of organizations we were recognizing, it was kind of within that framework of, are they building reading and writing skills? But I noticed the conversation, even in the short time that I was with the program at that point, it was starting to evolve towards more than just reading and writing. So we took a few months as a group to really think through how the board defines literacy and how do we as a program define literacy. And then we came across, we did our own brainstorming. We listed a lot of ideas out, and we were starting to develop our own definition, and then came across this by UNESCO and felt like, oh, this is really capturing what we're trying to get at, which is just moving beyond just basic and important skills of reading, writing, and counting. But now it's being able to do something with those skills, right? Making meaning, interpreting, creating, communicating, especially in an increasingly digital, text-mediated, rich and fast-changing world. So it's really part of a larger set of skills. And I did just want to go over this with all of you, and we do include this at the top of our evaluation criteria just to give potential applicants sort of a sense of how we're viewing literacy. We've received applications from organizations that focus primarily on financial literacy or health literacy. So this just helps us kind of hone in the focus, as we communicate with our potential applicants. Like I mentioned, really the original heart intent of the program is to draw public attention to the importance of literacy. Something like the Library of Congress helps, just naturally draws attention. And so we want to help use our sort of place in the context of the world to help elevate this as an important issue. We want to celebrate American and international organizations for their outstanding contributions to increasing literacy and reading. And also by doing this, we want to support the development and the distribution of successful and innovative methods. So we do often, and we are continuing to work on ways to help um, kind of be a microphone or a platform for our winners and honorees. It's not just about celebrating and saying, you're doing really great work, but you're doing really great work, and how can we share out about the great work you're doing so that others who are trying to do similar work can learn from you and can do something similar and help. We're all part of this greater mission to improve literacy all over the world. A little bit more concrete benefits here. As a winner, you can receive cash prize, of course, to further your mission and goals. The prize comes with zero stipulations. It's not restricted funding. It's not a grant. So if you were to receive one of the top prizes, the biggest prize being the David M. Rubenstein Prize of $150,000, we never ask you to tell us how you spend it. There's no reporting involved. Once you're awarded that, that's all yours. We do love it though when winners and honorees come back to us and let us know what they've done with their funding, because we're just curious how it might have grown your program. You, of course, receive public recognition for your work. And then you get invited to join a growing network of past winners and honorees. And while this has always been a benefit we've tried to provide for our winners and honorees, it really wasn't until the Kizak Family Foundation that we received a couple of years ago that we were really able to kind of take that to the next level and again convene people physically in a room. And also we're exploring virtual meetings as well. But it's been really great to be able to truly focus some more attention on growing this network. And we're looking at MBAA too for inspiration, because I know this group is also relatively new. You all seem really successful so far, and we're looking up to you all about how to grow a coalition. Yeah, so I mentioned the actual Literacy Award prizes. Let's talk about them a little bit. I mentioned the David M. Rubenstein Prize. This can go to an organization based in the US or abroad, or the organization can be based in the US, but serving countries outside of the US. This typically is going to an organization that is innovative, that has made outstanding and measurable contributions to increasing literacy, and demonstrated a commitment to the advancement of literacy. So this is really our grand prize. The Kizak Family Foundation Prize is new, as you can probably tell by the name of the prize. This is for $100,000. This can go to any organization, wherever they're based in the world, whatever population they're serving. What's unique and what was exciting for us about this prize is it's intended for what we kind of say behind the scenes, a small but mighty program. So that could mean small in terms of actual physical sort of size, right? We know that there are so many organizations out there that are maybe 10 staff or under, and they're doing really amazing work. So we wanted to create room to be able to recognize those organizations. They could also be small or small but mighty in that they're relatively new. Maybe this is an initiative that was established within the past 5 or 10 years, but they've already had so much impact on improving literacy that we want to be able to recognize them. This was really important to the board. Again, they're the ones who are reading applications and making award recommendations to the Librarian of Congress. Because every year we would receive, a handful of applications, and then you have these smaller but mighty programs going up against like a Dolly Parton Imagination Library, or some of these really big programs that are really well established and just have really impressive numbers. And they, of course, deserve recognition. They're doing really incredible work. but the scale is just different, and we didn't quite have the channels to be able to recognize those small but mighty organizations. But our board, it got them every year, and that was something they wanted to do. So when the Kizak Family Foundation knocked on our door, this was like the first thing on our wish list. Like, can you make a way for us to be able to recognize these smaller but very significant, hardworking organizations? So we're really excited to be able to add that to our prize list. The next two sort of top prizes here for $50,000 is the International Prize and American Prize. Really, the difference here is that in the name, one is dedicated to an organization either based in the US or abroad, but the key here is that they're serving a population abroad. And then the American Prize would go to an organization based in the US serving a population in the US. And these organizations have to demonstrate that they have made measurable contributions to increasing literacy in the country and population that they serve. We also have an opportunity to recognize up to 15 organizations as a successful practices honoree. And this is where the Kizak Family Foundation has allowed us to double the financial impact. Up until 2024, the successful practices honorees were awarded $5,000 each, but thanks to the Kizak Family Foundation, we can increase that prize to $10,000 each. Up to 15 organizations will be selected from the pool of top prize applications that we receive. So it's not a prize category that you're actively seeking out or applying for. What happens is you're applying for one of the top prizes, which are the first four listed above. And then in that consideration, our board will nominate you as a successful practice honoree. And we can nominate up to 15. And it doesn't matter where you're based or who you serve. And typically, we do try to recognize you for a very specific practice. So if you have looked through our materials before each year when we announce our successful practices honorees, we do group them by the particular sort of successful practice that they're being recognized for, whether it's nurturing partnerships or increasing access to books. The themes do vary each year. They're not the same each year. But we do try to highlight the specific practice you're being recognized for. And then lastly, the Emerging Strategies honoree category. This is another new one, thanks to the Kizak Family Foundation. We can recognize up to 5 organizations under this prize category. They'll each get $5,000. And it kind of follows the logic behind the Kizak Family Foundation Prize, but the intention behind the Emerging Strategies is to be able to honor up-and-coming organizations. So these organizations or initiatives must have been established within the past 5 years. So these are, the way I see it personally, these are the organizations that need this funding the most. They're brand new, they're just getting up on their feet, but they're showing a lot of potential for success and impact. And so that is the one prize category I think very different from the rest, where there's kind of a time limit as to what makes how you're eligible to apply. So since in 2026, all organizations applying for the emerging strategies, their initiatives should have been established after 2021. I mentioned a lot of the benefits of winning the Literacy Award, but I did want to just highlight a few things. Winners do get to participate in an in-person awards ceremony at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. This comes with some funding for travel or just expenses for one individual representative from each organization. This is a really exciting event. Unfortunately, we've had to cancel and are working on rescheduling the 2025 symposium and recognition event due to the government shutdown. So we didn't get to celebrate our 2025 winners yet in person, but we are hoping to reschedule that date. It's a big highlight for us each year. As I kind of mentioned here and there, thanks to the Kizak Family Foundation, we are also able to host virtual and in-person meetings with former winners and honorees. And like I mentioned, we do virtual gatherings, and these are some topics that we've covered so far, like a peer-led panel on community partnerships, a workshop on collaborations versus partnerships. And upcoming will be a workshop on measuring impact and success. And I see I have a typo. This should be community responsiveness, which is one of our evaluation criteria. And as a winner, we'll definitely, James and I, it's just the two of us. But when we can, we do try to present at national and regional conferences. And the more that we're able to, build a relationship with our past winners and honorees, something that we try to prioritize is co-presenting at conferences with our previous winners and honorees. So we are working on a proposal now to collaborate with a couple of our former winners and honorees to present at ALA, the American Library Association conference in June. So another opportunity to look forward to should you apply and be selected as one of our winners and honorees. Just a quick summary of numbers. You already heard from me. We've distributed over $4.3 million. This has gone to 247 winners and honorees. That includes 12 Rubenstein Prize recipients, 13 each for the American and International. We did, in response to COVID back in 2020, offer a special response award to previous Rubenstein winners. So we basically re-invited previous, not just Rubenstein, but top prize winners basically to apply and demonstrate how they're responding to the COVID pandemic. And so we just broke that $150,000 prize into three smaller prizes of 50 grand. And recognize previous winners for their ongoing and innovative responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's why we have just 12 Rubenstein winners versus 13 each for the American International. 83 countries are represented, 50 states, some US territories, 6 continents, still working on Antarctica. And then 24 organizations are selected each year. So which is kind of nice. You submit an application, we can recognize up to 24 applicants. Populations served, I just listed this out. The top 3 are probably our most frequently served population groups. This does not imply any advantage or anything like that. Just wanted to give you a sense of the types of applications we receive, but really all population groups are welcomed, and we love to see that many different population groups are being served and recognized. Just wanted to highlight a couple of former winners and honorees and what they've shared with us about why it's been so important to be recognized by the Library of Congress Literacy Awards program. Many of them come from our 2023 cohort. Because we were doing something at the symposium that allowed us to collect their responses. But this was from our Rubenstein Prize recipient. Then they said it was a tremendous validation of the work that they do. And it's great. We hear this often from our winners and honorees. And knowing that you're all part of the NBAA, I'm sure you might have felt some level of this maybe before joining the NBAA. But mentioning that, it's great to see that we don't do this work in a vacuum, to know that there are other people like them who are working on promoting literacy, working really hard. Thousand News Literacy Project, they're based in DC. Downtown Boxing Gym, they really wanted to shout out their students that they're the ones doing the work. So for them to be recognized outside of their community in Detroit, Michigan is really cool, and it validates all of their hard work and that their hard work is working. We also have the Virginia Children's Book Festival. To be linked with something like the Library of Congress is really meaningful, puts us in a different category in people's minds, and opens up doors to partnerships that are interesting and meaningful. And we've heard from a couple of our 2025 winners. They were announced in September, and over the past two months, we've heard from a couple of them saying already that they've either secured additional funding or matching funding based on the award that they were selected for. So this has been really exciting for us, and this is our hope that this will unlock even more opportunities for all of you. And this is since it's 2023, it's pre-Kizak Family Foundation funding and pre-additional prize categories. But these are the organizations I think that always get me, the small but mighty ones. And here's Rio Grande Valley Literacy Center mentioning that they're a small town in Texas. So to be recognized by the Library of Congress Literacy Awards program means that they can reach more families and grow and get the recognition to really grow their program. So this is really exciting to be able to recognize them. And I know there are a few shout outs here. I was exploring your website, and I wanted to just kind of feature a few of you. And at this point, if anyone wants to unmute, if you see your organization up here, if you do want to unmute and just let us know how, or encourage our colleagues to apply for an award, please feel free to.
For sure, I'll go. I'll go. I'm Emily from
Hey,
Bookspring.
Emily.
And it was a really big honor for us to go up and be part of the awards. We were Successful Practices honoree. It was particularly special because we were my president was also happened to be in DC at the same time. So my board president was able to come. And I think even though Bookspring has been around a long time, we are, kind of a reading is fundamental, reach out and read local program that grew into its own thing. I think we still had kind of some identity issues. So I would actually say it was most important for my board of directors. My board of directors, we run a pretty large board of directors of 22 people. And I think that the recognition is important, but I don't think that you can underestimate, as repeating what you said, Judy, that how many people have said how important it is to be validated. And I think that's an internal thing too, as well as an external thing. And I do think that it helped translate into more fundraising for us for Bookspring. So I think all those things were good. And I will also give a shout out to the regional meetings. And I saw Marie on here, so I'm going to turn it over to her because that was a wonderful connection to meet in person, Marie, which we haven't been able to do through the NBAA yet, is meet in person. So what was your experience, Marie?
Oh, Emily, calling me out, huh? Love it. We had a really great experience going through the Library of Congress and being a Successful Practices honoree as well. It was just so much fun, and it felt like such a great honor, especially when at the time we were such a smaller organization. And so it felt really great to be recognized in that way. And I agree, Emily, just the connection through our cohort has been wonderful, just connecting with each other. Just working through some problems with each other, learning from each other has been great. And so it has been a very positive experience. And we were actually lucky enough to win the Center for the Book Award this year through Nebraska as well, which is part of Library of Congress. So that was an amazing connection to do as well. Angie and I just did that on Saturday. And so that was really fun. But apply. The application is not hard. It's easy enough. Like Judy said, there's no requirement of you when you do win it. It's just, but it is lovely to have that cohort to go with. So apply if you have not. That's my sticking to it.
Wow, and I promise I didn't pay either Marie or Emily to say these things.
No, that's because you and James are so awesome. You guys have been such a big support through all of it, and we appreciate that as well. So,
who else do we have on the call that has been a recipient? I love that, Judy, that you went ahead and highlighted some of our folks there in a slide. I know we even have a few more that I'm not sure if they're on the call today or not, but I know we were particularly proud in Tennessee of Literacy Mid-South, which is our big literacy organization in Memphis. I don't know if they're here today, but do we have other folks who would like to mention something about their experience?
I can mention something that may be unreliable. I tried to text to confirm it, but there's like a pretty good chance it's accurate. But I was with First Book for more than 10 years. I started with them actually in 2013. And I believe the 2015 Rubenstein Prize was awarded for the Stories for All project that I'm almost positive launched right at that time. And that was First Book's commitment to making stories with diverse representation, characters, storylines more widely available, especially in underserved communities across the country. I'm
That's
97% sure that's what the 2015 award was for.
that's fabulous. Thank you, Candace. I love it. It's really interesting to me to see sort of the breadth of different options that you can win these awards for, right? And that this isn't just going to one big group who's doing all these different things, and even though many of us on this call are that, but it also can have those niche you know sort of elements, whether it's a startup or someone small but mighty, or like you said, the books for all kind of situation. I love that there are different opportunities to be a part.
I'm here from Brooklyn Book Bodega. We were the Emerging Strategies honoree last year.
Woohoo, one of our
Fantastic,
inaugural.
Allison.
Yeah.
Thanks for putting this together and having us. I will just add on that, of course, we were so honored to receive this honor, and it really, the application process to the value of being recognized by the Library of Congress is just, I mean, you can't even begin to describe how valuable that is for a small organization. We were established in 2019. We're working on a lot of creative ways to improve book access throughout Brooklyn and New York City. And this was just like such a boon for our organization to be able to be really validated in that moment, that not only are we doing important work, but that we're being seen doing that work. And it helped, elevate our mission and really get out there. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Allison.
I just have to
Allison,
comment. You've only been there. You only were founded in 2019.
That's right.
Wow! Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
That
I mean,
is
that's the great thing about
amazing.
this award. It's really meant to highlight, newish organizations, right, who are doing interesting, new, unique initiatives.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you.
Allison, that's fabulous. And that leads to kind of my next question for you folks who have been through the process. I know that some of us may have not been the folks who actually wrote, the proposal or that sort of thing. But if you were involved in that, I'd love if someone would be willing to share out. Everybody has kind of said the process was fairly easy. Yay. Could you get into that just a little bit more? Would anybody be willing to do that?
And I do have a few slides going over the application process. So I can maybe do that first, and then we can hear some testimonies if anyone wants to share
Absolutely.
their own tips.
Yes, Judy, that's
Yeah, I
fantastic.
can
Sorry,
help
I jumped ahead
provide.
of us there.
Oh, no, it's perfect. It's a great way to move on. And yeah, I can just provide a little bit of context, and then folks can chime in if they'd like.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's the next section, so it's perfect. So submitting an application, I felt it was only right to give you some ideas and insight into the application process, other than just encouraging you to apply. First and foremost, save the date. The 2026 application, we're expecting to release them on January 5th. That's a Monday right after the holiday season. The application period is typically for about 6 weeks. So we will be closing the applications on February 17th. That's a Tuesday. It's the Tuesday right after President's Day. And it's real simple in terms of where to find the application. So I would just encourage you on January 5th. We'll also release a press release through the Library of Congress newsroom. But if you just go to www.loc.gov/literacy and go to our apply page, you can see all of the application instructions and forms there. And then another thing I do want to encourage you, and this is kind of a tip, our application forms do not change drastically year to year. There will be one sort of minor but kind of significant change going into 2026. But that's really just regarding the format of the application. So just fair warning, it might look different from what I'm about to describe, just slightly. But the actual content of the application and the questions we're asking will really not change from the 2025 application. And that's still on our website. So if you wanted and you have some time over the holidays and kind of wanted to get a head start, you absolutely could by downloading the 2025 application form and starting to draft your essay responses if you are interested. Who's eligible to apply? Really, any not-for-profit organization. I'm assuming all of you can probably apply. Tax-exempt organizations, even educational institutions, museums, colleges, universities, schools, of course, Indian tribes and tribal organizations, and any projects created or sponsored by local, regional, or national governments. We've had initiatives supported by USAID that have applied and have won. So just to give you an example of the types of sort of partnerships or sponsorships that we've been able to recognize. And we have a handful of applicants and award recipients from abroad that are initiatives established by like the local government or in partnership with. So that's no problem. If you are based in the US, we will be asking for like an EIN, and probably if you are selected, we'll be asking if you have a sam.gov registration. If that sounds completely foreign to you, that's no problem. It's no barrier to receiving the award. But just knowing everyone here is based in the US, just giving you a heads up there. Again, just keeping the deadline in mind. This is one question you might want to ask your colleagues here who have applied and received an award about just the application period being 6 weeks. We have heard that it's enough time to complete and submit an application, but that might be a question you have for each other. Yeah, we've talked about benefits of applying. How do you apply? Again, January 5th, go to our website, download the application. I do encourage you all to download and read through our application instructions and FAQs. A lot of the questions, we try to keep up with our FAQs, every year as we receive new questions that we think others might be curious about. We do try to include it in the FAQ. So it's getting longer each year. But in that way, it's a great resource, I think, as you put your application together. One challenge that you'll have to go through is just figuring out, are you going to apply for a top prize or an emerging strategy? And I have another slide later on just kind of breaking that down. But I think Allison sharing about, them applying, they were established in 2019, they were recognized in 2024. So they were within that 5-year framework. So I think that's really the deciding factor. If your initiative, it doesn't have to be your organization. Say I'm the Library of Congress, but my literacy initiative is only 3 years young. Obviously, the Library of Congress has been around for centuries, or more than a century, but I could apply just on behalf of that literacy initiative that just started within my longtime organization a couple of years ago. So just hopefully that's clear, and we try to make a few examples of that in our instructions. Downloading the application forms from our website. We do ask for 2 recommendation letters, no matter what application form you end up choosing. We do ask for 2 recommendation letters, and then just submitting that entire package to us by the deadline is all that we ask for. We do want to encourage you all to participate in our applicant information session, and maybe James can share the link to the RSVP form. You will also get a copy of these slides, so you'll get this link no matter what. But it's been scheduled for Tuesday, January 13th at 2 p.m. This will be an opportunity. It'll probably repeat a lot of the information I'm sharing in the second half of this presentation, but we'll go into a deeper dive of the actual application forms. And several members of our advisory board will participate in this information session. And you'll hear directly from your application reviewers what they're looking for, what this section in the application is really about. So it's a really great opportunity. We intentionally try to schedule this for a week after the applications have been released so that potential applicants have an opportunity to review the application questions and show up to this live webinar with questions. And this year we're extending the presentation by a half hour so that we have more time to be able to answer individual questions that come throughout the presentation. So if you are thinking of applying, I just recommend that you do attend the applicant information session, as well as just previewing the application before you show up, because it's really probably the only opportunity to be able to talk to anyone from the program directly about any questions you have about the application form. You can ask us, of course, anytime through our email, literacyawards@loc.gov. And I'll share that email address with you at the end of this presentation, but this information session is really the best time to show up with questions. Selecting the application form, again, there's two kind of separate forms you can choose from. You cannot submit both. So it will not increase your chances by any means. It may actually hurt you because it'll be confusing for the reviewers. And I think that if your initiative is 5 years or younger, you're actually at a greater advantage to submit for the Emerging Strategies application than for the top prize. Additionally, I would also share that, and this goes to all of you actually, even former winners and honorees, if you've been recognized before, you are more than welcome to reapply for the Literacy Awards. We actually, now that we have a few additional prize categories, we love and hope for that one of our former Emerging Strategies honorees will eventually apply for one of the top prizes, and that they'll be recognized, as either a successful practice honoree or maybe an American Prize recipient, and fingers crossed one day a Rubenstein Prize recipient. So hopefully you can also kind of see there's a little bit of a ladder to our prize categories, and we love to see and we hope to see that former honorees and award recipients will come back and apply as they are able to demonstrate more about the growing impact of their work. One example of that actually is Building Tomorrow, this year's International Prize recipient. They were a successful prize recipient several years ago. They reapplied and they were selected as one of our top prizes this year. So something to look forward to. I don't want you to feel like you're one and done. Unless you're a Rubenstein recipient, that's the only case where we couldn't recognize you again. The thing I also want to highlight here is that by submitting a top prize application form, you will automatically be considered for a successful practices honoree recognition. So there's no extra work you need to do to compete for that prize category. You will automatically be considered for that prize category. For the top prize applicants, there are 6 evaluation criteria that the board will be sort of grading your application against. Based on innovation, we're looking for new ideas, models, solutions, partnerships. The list is longer than that, but innovative approaches to literacy. Sustainability, this is obviously really important to us. We want to see that your initiative and your organization is not just there for a year or two, but there's some longevity and security in your program because you're doing really great work. And so we want to see that going on for years. Replicability, as I mentioned at the start of this presentation, we want to be able to disseminate and really distribute successful practices. And so scalability and adaptability is big for our board. Evidence-based practice, they want to make sure that the work that you're doing is rooted in some kind of research or theory or professional literature, applied practice. So you're not just kind of like testing out some creative ideas that you have, unless of course you're a researcher or, I don't know, a doctoral candidate who's done a lot of research into this and you're an innovator, but we want to see that it's really grounded in sound research and theory. Again, we'll go into greater detail with all of this during the actual information session. Measurable results, we want to actually see numbers, what is the impact of your work? It's great when you can show impact over time. I think that's one of the greatest ways to demonstrate your, impact. So we look for that. I will just kind of warn you, the board members have noticed that applicants conflate the two between evidence-based practice and measurable results. A lot of folks seem to be trying to give us their own numbers under evidence-based practice, and then in measurable results, they're not really providing any program data. So that's one challenging, we've noticed, area in the application. So just beware of that. I think the biggest tip that I can give you is under the measurable results section. That's really where you want to talk about like your actual work and the impact that it has. And the best way to do that is through either qualitative or quantitative. It doesn't have to be all numbers, although numbers are probably the easiest to understand and to kind of see, but we also love testimonies from students or former students who have gone through your program. And then community responsiveness, this kind of goes back to that UNESCO definition, but our board isn't just interested in, providing great reading and writing classes. But how are you actually interacting with, responding to, and involving the community that you're serving into the services and programs that you're providing? So we like to see, close-knit communities, community involvement, parents being involved in their children's education and things like that. This is a very important reminder. So I just want to say it explicitly here. We are not a grant. So when you're thinking about putting your application together, it's not a traditional grant application where you're saying with $50,000, we're going to open up a new library, or we're going to be able to put a new like mobile bus, library book distribution bus together. Rather, we want to hear that you did X, Y, and Z, and we want to celebrate your accomplishments rather than hear about how you plan to use the funding. And so I just want to, your application is really about bragging about all the awesome work that you've already done, rather than to say you're going to do something with this prize. And yes, just shouting out our board a little bit here. Again, they're the ones that read and review the applications. They are all involved in literacy in one way or another. They are literacy education professors, they are authors, they are former winners and honorees, like Kyle Zimmer from First Book. She's one of our board members. So we have a representative from USAID. Unfortunately, no longer at USAID, but that's the story for another time. But we have folks who are really passionate and are really qualified and are professionals, literacy professionals who are reviewing the applications. And then just so you know, we do announce the winners and honorees on September 8th every year. That's because that's International Literacy Day. And non-winners will also all be contacted by that date. So I know usually around June, we start to hear from folks like any updates, and all we'll say to you is not until September 8th. Just some important dates that I've already reviewed with you. So I'll just give this to you by handout. So you have that. If you haven't already, please do explore our website, lsu.gov/literacy. Again, you can already start to basically preview the 2026 application by looking at the 2025 application form. And then here's our email and our website. And I've shared, Beth, a copy of these PowerPoint slides, so you will all have them to click through. And also I've shared a list of helpful links, as well as our just program flyers. So you'll have those sent your way as well. But with that, Beth, maybe your question to the group about any application tips or concerns.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Judy. First of all, awesome. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. Lots of good information. Yeah, I just want to open it up. We have about 5 minutes here, and I know some folks, if they have a 3 p.m., might have to hop off. But keep in mind, folks, that this is being recorded and that there is the information session that she just shared with us coming up in January. So if you have a lot of burning questions, I am sure that that will be a lovely time to get those answered. And as Judy mentioned, she is going to send the slides our way, as well as all these links for information and the application and so on and so forth. I love that James shared an interactive map where we can look at other orgs who have won or been honored, and that is really fun. I think another source to get like-minded folks on board or connect with those folks. So does anyone, yes, if anyone wants to speak to the application process that they went through, or if others, oh, there it is. There's the map right there. Wonderful. But if anyone else has a question, now would be a great time to ask. We have just a few minutes left, so.
Sure. I have a question, kind of like more generally speaking, but Judy, as you've worked with like various literacy organizations and then also being a part of the Library of Congress in general, what have you been excited about in the world of literacy awareness lately?
Wow, that's a great question. The first time I've received that question. I think something that the board and James and I have been sharing this past year is just with everything going on in the world. It's been really great to be able to recognize the winners and honorees. And although James and I don't actually, again, participate in the application review process, we do, just out of our own curiosity, try to read through the applications. And so it's been really great to be able to focus on just the amazing work that everyone's doing, just through the Literacy Awards program. And again, just getting to know about it through the application process. Because last year we received the greatest number of applications we ever have in the history of the program. We received close to 200 applications, whereas previously we were barely breaking 100. So I also share that to give you context. If you did apply last year or this past year and you weren't selected, I do just want to give you context that it was a really competitive year, but it also just, yeah, showed just how much great work is being done. And unfortunately, we're limited to 24, prizes, but I mean, it's just really good to know. And you all know the statistics better than even I do, but there's still so much more work to be done. So it's just really great to meet with you all, and everyone is always the most kind and energetic and passionate people that is involved in literacy education and literacy promotion. So I think it's really just the people and just the passion and commitment that you all carry with you.
I love it. Great question. Anyone else? One last question. We're almost out of time. If no one else has
I have one, sorry. Just this is actually kind of slightly off topic, but I saw on the website that you guys used to have state awards, but it seemed to have ended 2023. Did they only happen sometimes? Did they not happen anymore?
Yeah, that's a great question. Really, the short version of it is the state awards we administered through our Centers for the Book, and I know they were mentioned earlier on this call. They were much smaller in prize, maybe about $1,000 each. So basically, we had our Centers for the Book identify organizations within their state that they felt like were doing great literacy promotion work. In the end, because it's kind of like a sub-grant, those organizations were receiving less than $1,000 for their recognition. And then at that point, we realized it's really not worth all the administrative work, and it's really not a significant amount of money that they're receiving. So it's actually better to have the Center for the Books organizations encourage them to apply directly to a literacy award. To apply directly for a literacy award directly from the Library of Congress, rather than kind of do this like sub-granting type of process, so they can get at least $5,000, if not more. So that's just why we discontinued it. But we do tap into our Center for the Book network each year and have them all do a lot of promotion, because we know that they're the ones that are really on the grounds and involved in their networks and know the organizations that should apply. That's a great question.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kelly. Well, Judy, thank you so very much. And thank you, everyone, for being a part of this call. I feel like we all learned a lot, and we're going to go out and start researching, what the options are and who all of our organization has won. I think that's super fun to see. And Emily, we do have our December all membership meeting coming up.
Yes.
Emily, are
you
still on?
Boy,
okay.
I wish I had the date right in front of me, but
sorry,
I do not. But yes, it is on the calendar on the NBAA website, and that is the all member meeting. We're going to have some new steering committee members coming in, which is awesome. And we will talk a little bit about plans for next year. Judy, it's really interesting that you started off talking about the different levels of organizations, because I think that's where we're at with the NBAA too, is that we're realizing the big variety of sizes and the different needs that the different size organizations need. So I think that's really what we're going to be focusing on for next year with the NBAA, is what can we do for the startups? What can we do for the national organizations? What can we do for everybody in between? We've kind of been in the middle a little bit, and now we've got to kind of make sure that everybody on the sides is part of the family of the NBAA too. So thank you so much.
And Emily, if the MBAA should also be applying for one of these awards.
Yes. Can
Good
an
thing.
association apply, Judy? Can an association apply?
Yeah, as long as you're, not the key is just being not for profit.
And we're 3 years old, so that gives us an interesting place to apply for sure.
Very
And I
interesting.
should also mention that the NBAA conference is, Kelly,
In the first week of February.
February
Like, what do you
3rd,
want? Thank you. I was like,
right? Like,
yes,
am I
February
pointing the
3rd.
right place?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
The conference is February 3rd. It's going to be great. It's a shorter conference on a Tuesday. So hopefully people will find something that they can do there. So thank you guys so much. Didn't mean to make us over there. You were on time, Beth. Thank you so much, Beth.
Woo-hoo.
Great
Thank
job.
you. Great session, everybody. Thanks again, Judy.